Hello, my name is CULLEY HOLDERFIELD, and this is 10 for 10. I'd like to thank Kelly Shin for giving me the opportunity to read from my work in support of the recovery efforts in Western North Carolina. I live in Cedar Grove, which is just outside of Hillsborough, but I'm from Western North Carolina. I'm a graduate of Asheville High. I'll be reading today in support of Tierra Fertil. It's a Henderson County-based worker-owned cooperative that provides mutual aid to the Latinx farming community in Henderson County. These are folks who often fall through the cracks of government-provided assistance. What I'll be reading from is a novel that came out in 2022. My connection to Henderson County is long. My family's owned a cabin in Henderson County for 50 years. It's in the Bat Cave area, which suffered quite a bit of devastation, as everyone knows, during Hurricane Helene. The cabin was undamaged and is currently witnessing the ongoing recovery in that area. This cabin inspired me to write this novel called Hemlock Hollow, which is about a college professor named Caroline McAllister who inherits a cabin in Western North Carolina. And with it, the journal of a young boy named Carson Quinn, written in the 1880s. The novel switches back and forth between Caroline's and Carson's point of view, and I'll read a little bit from each one. So this starts in 1886 in Carson's point of view. He's a precocious young boy. He's 13 years old, and he likes nothing more than to go out into the woods and hike, and he can identify all sorts of different flora and fauna, and he just wants to go out and explore. So I'll begin. Today, no one was out at the Saunders place as I passed by. Smoke curled out of the chimney, but I heard no voices within. Then I passed by the Duncans' clapboard house as quickly as possible. Old Isaac Duncan doesn't care for us Quinns much. It has to do with the war and all. Up beyond the Duncan place is pure mountain. No people at all living up there. I went way up, as far as I could, all the way to where there was no more up to go. From there, I could see all the way out to Hickory Nut Gap, past Blue Rock Mountain, to Round Top in the distance. Everything was pure white. It's funny how things look different in the winter, especially in the snow. Off to the west, way on down, was a patch of dark green I hadn't noticed before. It lay tucked in the fold of the mountain about where Big John Creek would be if you were to follow it up from the mill. It was a mile or so distant from where I was, but I could tell the trees were taller than normal and still green this deep in winter. I thought they were most likely a stand of pine, but I wanted to go check, so I detoured over that way on my way home. On making my way down there, through drifts of snow nearly as deep as I am tall, and I stand nearly 6 feet tall, I discovered an enchanted place. A cove I had somehow never encountered previously in all of my wanderings. The trees, mostly hemlocks, must be ancient, because they are massive. It would take 2 or 3 of me to wrap arms around the smallest one. A little creek, a tributary to Big John, meandered through and scattered all around were massive boulders as big as the smokehouse. The creek, being frozen, was silent. The only sound was a whispering wind high up in the tops of the hemlocks. Surrounding the cove on 3 sides was a dense laurel hill. You wouldn't be able to find this place during the summer unless you came up the creek, which I knew had some pretty steep falls down the mountain. Mr. Darwin might describe this place in geologic terms and talk about glaciers and Laurentian rock and sediment, but for me it was nigh on a religious experience. The place seemed like no other I'd ever been. I had the feeling I had discovered something no one else knew. I hereby named the place Hemlock Hollow, and decided that it would be my church. My worship, as it were, consisted of silent observation. Though the temperature was well below freezing, I did not feel cold. I was enraptured. And so Caroline, that was Carson's perspective. And then, so Caroline is a professor, and she's inherited this house, and she's researching Carson and reading this journal. She's trying to determine if he really did murder his brother, which is local legend. This is 100 years later or so. She's living in the cabin, which is actually situated in that same hollow that Carson just described in Hickory Nut Gorge area. So this is her. She's getting up after having set up camp behind the cabin during the restoration, and she's going to go into town today. After showering, I got dressed up, which meant my nicest jeans, cleanest blouse, and a pair of tanzanite earrings. I was going to make a trip into Hendersonville. The town is only 13 miles from the cabin, and the journey along Highway 64 can take anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour, depending on the number of slow-moving Floridians or farmers' tractors you encounter along the way. As I negotiated the hairpin turns over the Continental Divide and into the wide-open apple orchards of Edneyville, I couldn't help but think of Carson Quinn. This journey would have taken him the better part of a day back in the late 1880s. Before the blasting out of the roadbed from the mountainside, a traveler would have to continually cross the Reedy Patch Creek in order to negotiate the climb up the mountain. It would have been treacherous and tedious. On this day, the Subaru zipped along unimpeded. Though the journey itself hadn't changed much in the 30 years since my childhood, the scenery certainly had. The apple orchards were mostly still there, but smaller farms had been replaced with mobile homes and subdivisions. Some of the businesses along the road had not only changed hands, but also languages. What had once been Dolly's Mini Mart was now called Don Diego's Tiendita. I didn't realize that telegrams were still a thing, but there it was, Western Union, advertised in bright yellow and black. As towns go, Hendersonville is small, charming even, though after spending a couple of weeks at the cabin it felt garish and fast-paced with its Walmart, McDonald's, and Home Depot, a whole strip of commerce that could be anywhere in modern America. The first stop was a laundromat. During the summers of my childhood, Mom would haul everything down to the laundromat once a week, kids, clothes, and all. Coming to town was a ritual, an opportunity to buy groceries, go to the library, maybe see a movie. Washing several loads of laundry took what seemed like forever to Andrew and me. On several occasions, our impatience got us in trouble. There was the time we turned the dirt embankment outside into our personal prominence for King of the Hill. Being the older child, I suppose I was in charge, but the lady from the high-end consignment shop next door spoke harshly to Andrew. "You there," she said. "Does your mother know you're playing the dirt like piglets?" Andrew stared at her, his pants stained red from the clay we had been climbing. I leapt down from the top of the hill. "Yes, ma'am," I explained. "She knows where we are." "And where might she be?" I pointed to the laundromat. The lady led us to the door, pulled it open, and peered in. "That one there?" She pointed at a small, toothless woman in overalls, who seemed old enough to be our grandmother. "No, ma'am, there she is." Mom peered at us over the edge of her book. "Oh." The lady took a long look at Mom, who looked every bit like the high school English teacher she was, then back to us, our clothes and skin all soiled and smudged. My hair must have looked like it needed hours of brushing to remove the kinks and sticks. "Excuse me," the lady said to Mom, "are these yours?" she asked, pointing at me and Andrew. Andrew scoffed. "She's not my mother. I've never seen her before in my life." He ran up to the toothless, overalled woman. "Hey, Mama." The stranger broke into a wide, gummy smile and gave him a big hug. "This one's mine," Mom said. "What has she done this time?" "She was crawling in the dirt out back with that one." She pointed at Andrew. "She's going to wind up with worms if you don't keep a better eye on her." "Shoo," Mom said. "This is getting bad. Last week she stole the ice cream truck, got all the way down to 5th and Church before the police caught up with her. She's out on bail now. Looks like she hasn't learned her lesson." The lady wrinkled her nose at Mom, her face a contortion of confusion and derision. "I can't believe she's progressed from grand theft auto to playing in the dirt. Next she'll probably turn to drugs. Might you be looking to adopt? I'm sure Bobby Ann over there would gladly part with the boy, and then you'd have a matched set." The lady straightened her back and huffed. "I was just trying to help." "Thank you so much," Mom said. The lady spun on her heel and went back to her shop. When the door shut, we all had a good laugh, Bobby Ann included, whom my mother must have befriended while we were playing outside. Mom was friendly with everyone, especially with those whom others dismissed. The memory fresh, I pulled into the parking lot. The laundromat was still there, Interestingly, the consignment shop was not. While nostalgia colored nearly everything these days, I felt no remorse whatsoever at its demise. When I entered the laundromat, it was as though I had been transported not back in time, but across continents. The chattering song of Spanish twirled over the thumping of dryers and swishing of washers. Several Latina mothers were there with their children. Kids darting here and there, shouting, squealing, made the place seem more crowded than it was. I made my way to a free washing machine and loaded it up. As I did, one of the women approached me. Not having used a laundromat since grad school, I was sure I'd immediately breached unwritten etiquette. She was trying to tell me something. Her face wasn't angry, though. It wore a look of concern. "No work," she said, pointing at my chosen machine. She shook her head. "No work." "Está roto?" I asked in Spanish, having picked up the language on multiple research trips to Mexico. The next thing I knew, we were in full-bore conversation. "My name is Isabel," she said. "I'm Caroline. Where are you from?" I asked. I had thought I might be speaking Spanish this summer, just not in a laundromat in North Carolina. "Oaxaca," she said. "Why did you come here?" I asked. "Love, of course," she answered. A silver tooth glinted in her coy smile. "Oh? My husband came north to work in the trees." "Trees?" "Christmas trees. I missed him so much. I brought the kids up. Now he works with the apple orchards, and we live in Edneyville." The trailer parks I had driven by flashed in my mind, along with the sting of guilt for having bemoaned them. "That's Teresa," she said, pointing across the room to the oldest of her kids, a younger teenage girl wearing a sequin t-shirt, who was busy chasing down a toddler. That could have been me, chasing Andrew some 30-odd years before. As the machines did the dirty work, I sat back and watched Teresa mind her brother, while Isabel folded their clothes. As they left, she turned to me. Her silver-edged tooth again showed itself. "Hasta luego." "Igualmente," I answered. What a journey they must have had, crossing the desert by who knows how, making their way across the country to the mountains of North Carolina. These mountains, for so long a lure for people trying to make a living from the land. I thought of Sheila Quinn, Carson Quinn's mother from County Sligo, Ireland. I thought of all those pioneer mothers near the Gap, who were the Isabels of their day. I thought of my own people, the McAllisters and the Crests, possessors of journeys epic in their own way. Though Isabel may have been representative of the transformation taking place here, the transformation itself was nothing new. Just ask old Charlie Brightleaf, Carson's Cherokee friend. Stop there. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to read. Please check out Tierra Futil and support them if you would like. Thank you.